You're listening to 15 Minutes of Flame with Robert Phoenix.
Well, good morning. What's happening out there, everybody? Robert Phoenix. Just getting on the train a little bit late today. Seems to happen on Mondays after I do the Sunday night show. And sometimes I need a little extra sleep. It's just the way it goes every now and then. What's happening out there? I actually bought I don't know why I did this, but I bought a clock radio. And not just any clock radio. I decided that I was going to have a Saint-Jean clock radio. And people, well, I was hanging out with a friend on Saturday night. Well, why do you want a clock radio? You have a thing called a cell phone. Well, I decided that the cell phone has too much power in my life. So I took it off of alarm status. I mean, sometimes these devices need to know who's boss, right? It's true. So now I think my cell phone might actually have a little more respect for me because I'm shunning it a little bit. Just, keep it in its place, i.e. not in my bedroom. But I have to say that the snooze element on the alarm clock that I now have is a little too convenient. So what's going on out there, everybody? Let's say another Monday. Today's the 7th. May 7th. We're 8 days away from Uranus moving into Taurus. And we're already seeing, as we've been noticing and tracking, that there is a heck of a lot going on in Hawaii. So let's just follow up. You need to follow up on some of these stories. And this is from Zero Hedge. And the headline is, "This is as bad as it gets. Magma flowing from Hawaii's Kilauea forces thousands to flee." After first erupting on Thursday, Hawaii's Kilauea volcano has continued to send molten magma up through the 8 fissures that have now opened up in the ground in part of Hawaii that's home to several ritzy neighborhoods, including the Tony Leilani Estates, where residents left parts of the surrounding area without water. One area resident summed up the neighborhood's plight in a statement to the Los Angeles Times. "This is as bad as it gets," said John Bennett, 61, a resident of Leilani Estates neighborhood forced to evacuate. "We can't go back in yet. I feel lost. I don't know what to think. I've never been in this situation before." The estimated 1,800 people who live in the affected area have sought temporary respite in government shelters. Others have moved in with friends on other islands. At least 9 houses have been destroyed in Leilani Estates as the fissure has continued to spew lava through the lower Puna subdivision, according to the Honolulu Star-Advertiser. Some have said that they don't know whether the pets they left behind will survive the natural disaster, according to the Washington Post. Bennett, the man quoted above, said the eruption took him by surprise. He first learned what was happening when he came home Thursday and noticed that a fissure had opened up in his front yard. Can you imagine that? You got a fissure just bursting in your front yard, and now you're dealing with lava flowing out of this fissure. Oh, man, I can't even imagine what that's like. Bennett's wife, Roberta, an assistant librarian at the Kamehameha schools on the island of Hawaii, was away on Oahu when the magma started flowing, but she quickly flew back with their son Keone. The family stayed in the house until Friday, and they were forced to leave because of the magma flows. Thursday night, we saw the glow of lava about a half a mile away from our house. Bennett said the next day we packed and left with our 3 dogs. The reason we left was the air quality was so bad with a strong sulfuric smell coming out of the ground. Bennett, who works as a company that works for a company, man, Zero Hedge, come on. Bennett, who works for a company that transports gas, diesel, and jet fuel around the island, told the LA Times they've been staying with friends in Hilo on the Big Island. We're strong. I've got my wife. My son is back in Honolulu. I think my house is still standing. I heard that 4 homes have been destroyed. 2 new cracks in the ground began spewing lava from the volcano Saturday, emitting a toxic gas that further compounded the danger to the residents, according to the USGS. Active eruption of lava and gas continues along the Kilauea volcano's lower east rift zone within the Leilani Estates subdivision. Additional fissure vents producing spatter and small lava flows developed early this morning, and additional outbreaks in the area are likely. Deflationary tilt at the summit of the volcano continues, and the lava lake level continues to drop. There is no active lava in the Pu'u'o area. Aftershocks from yesterday's 6.9 earthquake, that's right, they had a 6.9 trembler, continue, and more should be expected with larger aftershocks potentially producing rock falls and associated ash clouds above Pu'u'o and Halemaumau'a crater. By Saturday afternoon, local time, magma was only flowing through Fissure 7, but that fissure alone was producing enough lava to continue threatening the surrounding area, said USGS volcano scientist Wendy Stovall. Since the eruption on Thursday, quakes have been shaking the island at regular intervals. Then has also endured 2 particularly large quakes. A 5.6 magnitude quake hit south of the volcano, which was followed by a 6.9 magnitude quake. The latter quake was felt as far away as Oahu, and it also struck in nearly the exact same place as a deadly 7.4 magnitude earthquake in 1975. What's worse, the gas flowing up through the fissures is making the area even more hazardous to people living there. The sulfur dioxide gas is very intense and a dangerous hazard in the area, Stovall said. This is a continually evolving situation. Let's see, what do we have here? The quakes are also forced the closure of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park after some of the trails were damaged. The first quake triggered a cliff to collapse into the ocean near Jagger Museum. Park officials said they canceled all tours Friday and evacuated about 2,600 tours from the area. Safety is our main priority at Hawaii Volcanoes National Park, and it's currently not safe to be here, Park Superintendent Cindy Orlando said in a statement. We will monitor the situation closely, reopen it when it is safe to do so. Geologists from the USGS said the quakes around Puna most closely resemble the events that precipitated the 1955 eruption. That eruption lasted 3 months and left almost 4,000 acres of land covered in lava. So this is funny. I'm looking at the comments. Some of those comments are very funny. The first comment says, no, it can get much worse. Yes, that's true. Second comment, magma flowing from Hawaii's Kilauea forces thousands to flee. Bush, Clinton, Bush, Obama, and now Trump. Millions are killed and displaced. Hell, heck, I'll take Kilauea any day of the week. This one comment, please, Pele, destroy Zuckerberg's house. I offer you Zuckerberg as a sacrifice. That's kind of hilarious. Here's another one. Hawaii, filled with lefties and gays. I know of one gay couple very close to the volcano. First, it rained 50 inches in 36 hours. World record. Earthquake, lava. Wonder how that fancy house is looking right about now in their goddess lifestyle. They found all sorts of homo graffiti in Pompeii before the earthquake, That's a bit of a stretch. But I get it. Let's see. What else do we have here? Hawaiian natives used to placate the volcano god Pele with a virgin. Too bad Hawaii has run out of virgins, or at least ones willing to jump into a volcano. Hawaiians hate America, especially haoles, but will be begging for handouts and their tax dollars. Let's see. Hawaiians, easily the most racist people in the USA, far more so than people from Mississippi or Massachusetts, and boy, do they get pouty when this is pointed out to them. So here we go. Trumped magma. It's kind of a play on MAGA. Well, we can replace the virgins with Muslims. Pele would be quite pleased since after death, the Muslim cashes in on 72 virgins. And then another person says, concerning how they got fucked over, I cannot blame them. That's for being racist. Yeah, they did get fucked over. Laugh out loud. If Hawaii was not part of the U.S., it would have been part of Japan or China. That's just the way the world works. That is true. It's a beautiful place, but it's also one of the most strategic pieces of land on the planet. It's never been on its own. And believe me, if the Asians or Russians would have taken over the place, the screw over would have been 10 times worse. That's kind of true. I mean, this is really, unfortunately, the pragmatist's understanding of the nature of things. And I try to point this out, right? On some level, this is, ultimately, wouldn't it be great if we had a much bigger, more egalitarian, more enlightened, less corrupt world to live in? Absolutely. Check that box for me. But really what we're dealing with here on a very pragmatic basis is land grabs. That's the way it's always been on this planet. Land grabs. Land grabs justified by what? The spreading of democracy. Land grabs justified by what? The spreading of religion. Land grabs justified by what? The spreading of an ideology. Whatever that ideology is. It's the way it's always been. And until further notice, it's the way that it always will be, until further notice. And I think it'll change in the future. I think the amount of people that are waking up is going to have an impact on what that looks like. However, again, my concern with the awakening is, are they just moving people from one corral to another? I was on Twitter the other day, and I started following Mike Cernovich. I'm not the hugest Mike Cernovich fan, but his tweets are very telling at times because he does have some inside info. And apparently he was close to one of the Trump sons. I think it might have been Don Jr. or Eric. I think it might have been Eric Trump. He's closer in age to Eric. And first of all, you don't get on 60 Minutes. Like Cernovich got on 60 Minutes with two, for all intents and purposes, kind of mediocre books. The Gorilla Mind and Dangerous Play. And becoming a quasi-spokesman for the alt-right in some ways. So he was on 60 Minutes. You don't get on 60 Minutes without any connections. You know what I'm saying? It just doesn't happen. So Cernovich had this tweet the other day about Hillary Clinton. And the tweet was, what difference would it make if she went to jail? And here's a hint, it's not going to happen. It's a really interesting comment or tweet. So there are two things. Number one, it hints at the fact that Cernovich knows what and won't happen with Hillary Clinton. That's number one. And number two, he's making a case that sending her to jail would mean nothing. Well, he's absolutely wrong. And I'm not somebody looking for blood vengeance with Hillary Clinton, but if you drill down, Hillary Clinton's committed crimes. She's committed a number of crimes against the state. There's sedition in there. And by not having to answer fully for those crimes. And that's just, and I'm just thinking about what she was doing with the server in Libya and basically jump-starting ISIS and running a proxy war. And that's what they were doing. They were running a proxy war through Hillary's server, and Hillary's server also contained the majority of a lot of transactions, emails that were linked to the heart of the Clinton Foundation, which is a crime syndicate. All these foundations are crimes, not all of them. A lot of foundations, NGOs, nonprofits, they're crime syndicates. And even the ones that are the most well-intentioned and well-meaning. What do you think George Soros does? George Soros puts his money, he filters and launders a lot of his money through the crime syndicates. Well, not the crime syndicates. Through foundations like the Open Society and the Tides Foundation and all these other foundations. What do you think the Koch brothers do? It's the same thing. These people have a vision of the world. Sometimes they're united and linked together. Sometimes they're not. They use huge amounts of money to procure power and influence and to change and adapt or change and alter the collective narrative about whatever it is they want to change and alter. In which case now it's all about David Hogg and the Second Amendment and gun rights and on and on and on and on and on, right? So this is what's going on. This is what happens. And so Hillary Clinton, the Clinton Foundation, was a pretty significant crime syndicate connected to the Bush family, another crime syndicate. So just, just a little shout out to our friends in Hawaii. I just want to read one more comment here. This is probably one of the more intelligent ones. This is to Anti-Fastiche. So you are like a mugger telling the victim, hey, be happy that I'm mugging you. I am only threatening to kill you for my stuff. Others will just shoot you for fun. The U.S. staged a coup, stole the sovereignty of a country, and killed those who actively oppose it, talking about others who might, maybe possibly, blah, blah, blah. The U.S. was the criminal nation. Just suck up your nation's criminality and its rock solid history of it, and its continuation to this day. Stop with the lies and excuses and simply stop doing it. How it could get worse, look at a Google map of Hawaii and pay attention to the water off the coast, and you will sail past major subsurface land subsidence. That is, of course, the greatest threat to every nation with the Pacific coastline, the major subsurface water and land subsidence creating a major tsunami. Well, this comment is actually, see, both things are equally true. Yes, that did happen. Of course it did. But there would have been other nation states that would have done the same thing, and I'm not justifying it. Go back to Dr. John. If I won't do it, somebody else will. If I won't do it, somebody else will. Right? That's the nature of the beast on the planet. Doesn't make it right. That's just the way it is. And things are changing. People are waking up. The problem is that these systems have been set in place for a very, very long time now, and disassembling the systems, it comes with it. There's a price that comes with disassembling the systems. If you're going to disassemble the systems, then you better have something in place that can take the place of the system that you're disassembling. This is true. Now, there are some people who believe that anarchy, truly enlightened anarchy, is something that could actually work. I'm not opposed to some version of anarchy, to be quite honest with you, some version of self-rule. But if you're going to have self-rule, you got to have full-on responsibility. Look, you've got to be really involved in that. You've got to be really involved in the process of taking care of things, taking care of your thing and taking care of the things around you, just like other people take care of the things around them. It's not necessarily a bad model, but it's a very different one. I was watching Jordan Peterson, a clip of Jordan Peterson on Bill Maher. And it was interesting. But Peterson was saying that, well, what happens if the left gets their wish and they depose Trump. Well, a couple of things happen. Number one, you've got over 40% of the population that supported Trump. They're now disaffected, even angrier than they were before, causing a greater rift between the left and the right. That's one. And number two, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get Mike Pence. I'll tell you right now, Mike Pence, as President of the United States, will be one of your worst nightmares, worse than Trump. Believe that. It's true. Mike Pence and Mike Pompeo, the two Mikes, they sleep in the same ideological bed. All right, so our good friends in Hawaii, hang in there. Not much you can do about it. Got to ride this thing out and maybe even relocate on one of the other islands. I talked with a friend briefly yesterday who had left the Big Island and just for a vacation. And I didn't know that they were in the States. And that's how they were doing. And she said, find them in the States. And I asked her about her place, and she says, well, I'm 60 miles away from the epicenter. Just got a home 60 miles away. That's nothing. It's nothing. When you deal with nature like that, like intense volcanic nature, 60 miles is nothing. Okay, what else do we have out there in the world? I just wanted to follow up on some of the Hawaii material, which is sometimes we get into something and we just want to make sure that we stay kind of on top of it. So the next big deal here is, at least politically speaking, is John Kerry and his little jaunt over to Iran. So John Kerry is actually carrying out the business of the state while he's no longer employed by the state. Can you dig that? So there's a thing called the Logan Act. And the Logan Act was, I believe, if I'm not mistaken, was the thing that got Kelly or Mike Flynn. The Logan Act was what got Mike Flynn in trouble because he was doing business for the state when he wasn't given permission. Although that was a weird time because it was in between Obama and Trump. And of course, he was sent over there to Russia. He was there by Jared Kushner to see how the Russians were going to vote on an upcoming UN charter amendment concerning Israel. So he asked Obama, who at that time was still president. Obama's like, of course. He's like, rubbing his hands together. Oh, sure, go on over there. Meanwhile, they're wiretapping the entire thing because they'd gotten the FISA agreement in place that would allow them to wiretap the entire Trump candidate from the earliest time they got the permission, which meant that Trump Tower was wired with sound. Totally wired. And Trump was going to run his campaign. He was going to run his presidency mostly out of Trump Tower. Do you remember that? And then all of a sudden, that's not happening. He goes to Washington, D.C. because his entire building was bugged from the bottom to the top. And so this is what was going on. I mean, what happened with Trump and the run-up to the election is 10 times worse than Watergate. 10 times worse. And now we have the latest, which is this judge who has come in and said that Mueller is overstepping his authority. That Mueller is going after Trump. And it's a witch hunt. It's a total witch hunt. And this was in relation to the Manafort case where, of course, Mueller went after low-hanging fruit, went after Paul Manafort because Manafort had ties to the Ukraine, to Russia, to Trump, and everybody's been doing business with Ukraine and Russia ever since the wall came down. Nobody is clean around that. Period. End of story. So let's see if we can find the little we got here. Let's see if we find a good article around what's going on Mueller. I had one already picked up here. Give me 1 second. Okay, so this is a very interesting development. Let's see. Well, first of all, apparently this is in the hashtag section of today's show. Apparently, there's a bunch of bikers going to Washington to end the Mueller sham. This is from Sputnik News. A large group of motorcyclists is said to be headed toward the U.S. Capitol of Washington, D.C. with the intention of confronting U.S. Justice Department Special Counsel Mueller on Monday. The group, calling themselves the Deplorable Bikers, begun as an anti-Obama group just before the former U.S. president's second term and transformed into a pro-Trump cabal. Now, bikers are a cabal. During the latter's 2016 election campaign, tweeted that many of its adherents are headed to Washington, D.C. to confront Mueller regarding his federally mandated investigation into alleged collusion between the Kremlin and Trump's campaign. This is breaking. This is a tweet. We support 45 and the wall. An angry mob is reportedly headed to Washington, D.C. to confront Robert Mueller on Monday to demand his witch hunt be shut down. Reports say over 15,000 bikers are involved. Donate to support this action at support45.com so we can post bail if need be. Reports claim that thousands of pro-Trump motorcycle riders have joined the mob, demanding that Congress defund what they refer to as the Mueller witch hunt, according to statements by spokespersons claiming to represent the group. This is another person. Oh my God, just 2 nights ago I said patriots need to go in numbers in support of our POTUS and against this dark shadow government and be led by motorcycles. Incredible. My wish has been answered rather quickly. Well, maybe once they're done at Washington, D.C., maybe they could head southeast and go to Parkland. And maybe they could have a rally around David Hogg's house. What do you think of that? That'd be cool. Maybe they could go rally around Scott Israel's place. Responding to accusations of collusion, Moscow has repeatedly denied interfering, calling the claims absurd. As for the U.S. president, he's denied colluding with the Kremlin and has repeatedly called the Federal Justice Department investigation a witch hunt. The committee did allege, however, that Moscow attempted to sow division in the U.S. by carrying out cyber attacks and seeking to influence social media users. Okay, let's be clear about this. Let's be clear. Elections are tampered with constantly. Constantly. There's a group called lobbyists. They're tampered with constantly. The biggest offender of tampering elections is AIPAC, JINSA. I mean, these lobbies are constantly getting involved with creating bills, writing bills, the influence of dual citizens. That's the big, dark, dirty secret. Like, who has been influencing elections for the last 45 to 50 years? Well, since 1950. Nobody talks about that. Russia, big smokescreen. I'm telling you right now, big smokescreen. Well, they're going. The bikers are ramped up and they're headed towards Washington, D.C. I would pay. How much would you pay to see Robert Mueller confronted by a group of hairy bikers? I would pay for that. I don't have a ton of money, but I think I'd pay maybe $100 just to see that. Let's say $100 for a 90-second clip. Now, I need a little bit more than that. About 3 minutes. 3 minutes worth of confrontation with Mueller and bikers. I'd pay $100 to see that. Maybe that's what we should do. Have these events and people can just, like celebrity death match, celebrity wrestling death match. Do you remember those from MTV back then? They were hilarious. The one with Michael Jackson was crazy good. Yeah, I'd definitely pay for that. Because that's really the high strange and the real weird that we need, right? Mueller, the war hero. Mueller, the obfuscator of justice. Head of the FBI post 9/11. That in and of itself should get your attention. But that was the guy that was running the FBI that was involved in the post 9/11 hearings, the commission on 9/11, which was a complete joke, utter scam and sham. I was never so angry. I could see what was going on. They went from one joke and scam and sham to another. And after that, we had the run up to the Iraq War, and now this wonderful, wonderful, wonderful presence that we have in the Middle East. We've always been there. Let's be clear about this, but a lot of regime changing since then. I was watching again this whole thing with Bill Maher and Jordan Peterson. And Peterson again says, look, if you be careful what you wish for, because what's going to happen is that the country's going to be torn apart. And yeah, that's true. Maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing. I don't know. But clearly we're not getting on the same page anymore. It's just not happening. I mean, what happened during the 2016 election was tantamount to the North and the South, and the Blues and the Grays. Now it's the Reds and the Blues. And there's still a lot of enmity that exists in the South for what happened. And this is what happened. It's so funny, I remember back in, 2015? 2015? 2014, it was 2015, starting the 2014 NFL season, the 2015 Super Bowl in New Orleans with the Harbaughs going up against each other. And I was doing a lot of duality work at that time. And I was looking at the Civil War, brother versus brother. And the programming was very, very strong during that time. And the Super Bowl is a ritualized event. We all know that. It's a totally ritualized event, from the halftime entertainment to not only the halftime entertainment, but apparently the rituals that are taking place in and around, and in some cases even underneath the stadiums of the Super Bowl. There's a great, great documentary called When We Were Kings. And it's about Muhammad Ali's fight in Zaire with George Foreman. It's a fascinating movie. You see Ali, pretty much at the top of his game, although slightly coming down the other side. He still had speed. He still had some speed, some craftiness, a psychological master. But he was taking on a much younger, stronger, angrier opponent in George Foreman. And one of the things that they did is they documented this fight. And it's the rise of Don King coming on the scene. And it was like, this is what the 70s were about. They had a music festival in conjunction with the fight in Zaire. like not Las Vegas, but Zaire, which had been the home of an extremely bloody coup. And the guy that was running Zaire was a complete tyrant. And the fight was going to be held out this soccer stadium, this big outdoor soccer stadium. And they discovered that underneath the soccer stadium, they had torture facilities. They would bring in the dissidents, so-called dissidents, and torture them underneath the soccer stadium. Now, I'm not saying that every soccer stadium in the United States has torture facilities, but I'm just giving you an example of one documented case of that actually occurring somewhere in the world. Anyway, it's a great movie. Check it out. Really great movie. Oh. Different times. Way different times. Way different times. So, yeah, I'd love to see the bikers go face-to-face with Mueller. That'd be awesome. But Mueller's got his own, he should be answering the, God, that period post 9/11. It's just driving me batty. What was going on? That's where the real miscarriage of justice clearly was. Let's check in with the chat room, see what's happening with the chatters. There's Judy. Good morning, Rob. Good morning, Judy. And Steve says Carrie, or could be Chris, don't know. Carrie is probably in Iran visiting Sufi shrines. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think that's why he's there. Now, what's coming out of all this is the link to Black Cube. Black Cube. What is Black Cube? Well, Black Cube is basically a company started by ex-Mossad, and they're fixers. They're big-time fixers that they were involved in with Harvey Weinstein. So let's get into this a little bit. This is from the New Yorker. Israeli operatives who aided Harvey Weinstein collected information on former Obama administration officials. Ronan Farrow has become the hotshot reporter now, right? In June 2017, Ann Norris, a former State Department official, received an email containing an unusual proposal. Norris is married to Ben Rhodes, a former foreign policy advisor to President Barack Obama and a prominent advocate of the Iran nuclear deal. In the email, a woman who introduced herself as Eva Novak and claimed to work for our London-based film company called Shell Productions. Are you kidding me? Like a shell company? Asked Norris to consult on a movie that she described as All the President's Men Meets the West Wing. It would follow the personal lives of government officials in the positions that determine war and peace during times of geopolitical crisis, including nuclear negotiations with a hostile nation. Recalling the exchange, Ann Norris said that she found Eva Novak's request bizarre and that she never responded. The email appears to be part of an undercover campaign by an Israeli private intelligence firm to discredit Obama officials who have been leading proponents of the 2015 Iran nuclear deal. The campaign was first reported on Saturday by the British newspaper The Observer. However, sources familiar with the effort, pages of documents obtained by the New Yorker, reveal that there is more to understand. Two of those sources told me Sunday that the operation was carried out by Black Cube, a firm that was also employed by Harvey Weinstein that offers its clients access to operatives from Israel's elite military and government intelligence units, including the Mossad. A month before Norris received her email, Rebecca Call, a former program officer at the National Democratic Institute and the wife of the former Obama administration foreign policy advisor Colin Call, had also received a puzzling email. A woman named Adriana Gavrillo claimed to be the head of corporate social responsibility at Rubin Capital Partners, a London-based wealth management firm. Gavrillo told Call that her firm was launching an initiative on education that she wanted to meet to discuss the school that Call's daughter attended, at which Call volunteered. Call referred Gavrillo to school staff members, but Gavrillo repeatedly refused to speak to anyone but her. Gavrilo's firm would not be able to make the necessary due diligence on the school employees, she wrote. Rebecca Call, who said she said she worried I'm strangely a target of some sort, eventually stopped responding to Gavrilo. Adriana Gavrilo and Eva Novak appear to be aliases. LinkedIn pages for both Gavrilo and Novak at one point showed a slim blonde woman advertised as fluent in Serbian. Shortly after the New Yorker contacted Black Cube about this story, Novak's LinkedIn page was deleted. The email addresses listed by both women do not work. Calls to the phone number Novak listed went unanswered. The websites for Rubin Capital Partners and Shell Productions have been taken down, but both were bare-bones pages constructed through the free site building tool Wix. Yes, just because there's a website doesn't mean it's real. The addresses for both companies led to shared office spaces. There was no evidence that Shell Productions or Rubin Capital Partners had ever operated there. The documents show that Black Cube compiled detailed background profiles of several individuals, including Rhodes and Call, that featured their addresses, information on their family members, and even the makes of their cars. Black Cube agents were instructed to try to find damaging information about them, including unsubstantiated claims that Rhodes and Call had worked closely with Iran lobbyists and were personally enriched through their policy work on Iran. They denied those claims. Rumors that Rhodes is one of the Obama staffers responsible for unmasking Trump transition officials who were named in intelligence documents. Rhodes denied the claim. In an allegation that one of the individuals targeted by the campaign had an affair, the campaign is strikingly similar to an operation that Black Cube ran on behalf of Harvey Weinstein, which was reported in the New Yorker last fall. One of Weinstein's attorneys, David Boies, that's B-O-I-E-S, hired Black Cube to halt the publication of sexual misconduct allegations against Weinstein. Must have been pretty effective because we're not hearing a lot more from them, are they? Black Cube's operatives used false identities to track women with allegations and also reporters seeking to expose the story. In May 2017, a former Israel Defense Forces who immigrated to Israel from former Yugoslavia, was working as an undercover agent for Black Cube. The woman contacted the actress Rose McGowan, claiming to work for Rubin Capital Partners, but using the identity of a Diana Phillip. Phillip's emails to McGowan displayed the same tactics in the emails sent to Norris and Call, and in some cases used almost identical language. Phillip also wrote to me from Rubin Capital Partners and again used similar language. In a statement, Black Cube said it is Black Cube's policy to never discuss its clients with any third party, to never confirm or deny any speculation made with regard to the company's work. The statement also read Black Cube has no relation whatsoever to Trump administration, Trump aides, to anyone close to the administration, or to the Iran nuclear deal. The firm also said that it always operates in full compliance of the law in every jurisdiction in which it conducts its work, following legal advice from the world's leading law firms. So we have, on the one hand, GPS Fusion, which was basically doing the same kind of work that Black Cube is doing. So we have these internecine, free radical security surveillance groups that are engaging in things like espionage, collection of data, and then looking at ways to use that information to essentially either set somebody up or ruin them, and thus ruining any kind of case or initiative that they're employed to get in and monkey work, essentially. This is what's going on. Again, left-right paradigm, GPS Fusion, and we have the people at Black Cube. Not to mention Cubic Communication, based on the same cube, out of Florida, which is the company that David Hogg's father works for. And they do all kinds of really interesting things like hostage and crisis management, training of local police officers and special forces, special groups that have been put together to have a tactical use, right? They're one-stop shop from top to bottom. They can create programs that infiltrate local news. They can train people on simulated firing. It's almost like having a holographic deck, right? Simulated firing situations, live. I mean, they do it all. That's David Hogg's father. The cube, the black cube symbolism, the hypercube, Saturn and Capricorn, is amongst us. Very interesting stuff here. Again, who influences what? And we have John Kerry going over to Iran. Look, I really think that the bigger piece here is that it's so interesting. I saw the Cuomo, was it Andrew Cuomo, interview with Bibi Netanyahu. And he asked Netanyahu straight up if Israel has nukes. And that, hey, look, if we're going to be transparent here, let's all be transparent. Well, I thought that was a really interesting conversation. Of course, Netanyahu, did his little soft shoe dance around it. And it's like you watch these interviews and that in and of itself is kind of a precursor to madness. I was watching these interviews, which I try to do very little of, to be honest with you. But I watched it just because, well, let's see what he does. And of course, he does what he does. I was watching one yesterday with Rudy Giuliani and George Stephanopoulos about the Stormy Daniels affair. You just watch how Giuliani gets in there and legally parses everything and has a few ha-has, a few winks, a few yucks. And everybody knows what he's talking about, but he's not giving up the truth on any of it. He's not answering any of the questions. It's completely go unanswered. And of course, he's there to do the positive spin. And this is where we are. And people can see it now more than ever. More than ever. Unless, of course, you're blinded by the false light, in which case you won't see it. Just keep on banging your drum for whatever it is you're banging your drum for. Okay, what else do we have here today? We get some more comments in the chat room. Lori, she's laughing. Once again, your research ability blows me away. Where and how do you find this stuff? Judy, I'm on 24/7. I'm like the AM PM of research. I'm open 24/7. And it's not just this stuff. There's other stuff. God, I had this. I want to save this for tomorrow. There's always plenty of stuff to talk about. Trust me. We'll follow up on some of the Hawaii information tomorrow. But I wanted to. I had this. I was in Austin on Saturday, and I was shopping at Costco, and I've been gone from Austin for almost 2 months now. I don't know whether it's because there's when you move out of one fishbowl into another, and you're looking at the fishbowl that you used to be in, you see the fishbowl a bit differently. Or whether things have actually really changed in Austin. I'm going to get into some of this tomorrow. But I just love watching people. I love watching people shop. Is that weird? I'm always observing. You can tell things about people by how they shop. Obviously, what's in their basket, blah, 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 but also how they're interacting. People interact with one another. Do they shop together? Is the guy pushing the cart and the woman is out in front, sort of leading the charge? Are they interactive? Are they shopping alone? If they're shopping alone, who are they shopping? I should be hired by Black Cube. Right? I'd be their perfect operative in Costco's all around the country. So I was sitting there and I'm walking around and I saw this couple. And it was a very, very interesting kind of couple. And the woman was in some ways quite plain looking. And the guy, he wasn't a sex symbol by any means, but he certainly had married a person that was not quote unquote traditionally like beautiful or anything like that. And I thought, and I was watching them, and they were really kind of interactive and a team. While they were in this brief little slice of going down an aisle where they were. And I don't know anything about their private life, but I thought about this idea that we become so dazzled with beauty as a choice for partnering, or superficial power as a choice for partnering, that it's really damaged who and what and how we partner with people in our lives. And as a result, the whole nature of partnering has completely changed, period. And not just that, but our expectations around what a partnership and what a relationship and what a marriage is supposed to be like versus this story, incredibly false narrative that's been going on since essentially Playboy, is that there are these amazingly attractive women in the world, and that if you're a man, that's what you should aspire towards, and that is ultimately your birthright as a male. And that's a completely toxic situation, a completely toxic rendering of partnership and a lot of other things. And I'm going to get into that tomorrow because I have some thoughts and I need to put them together so people don't mislabel me as I go down a particular rabbit hole around this. But I think it's really affected and impacted society. Because then I was thinking as I left, I kept churning on this moment, where I was kind of like gathering information and feeling a vibe. And I thought to myself, well, look at Carl Jung. You ever see pictures of Carl Jung's wife? She was instrumental in helping him with this girl. Well, then I thought, well, Jung actually was married to 3 women. He was married to his wife, and then he had Marie-Louise von Franz, who was his secretary, and then he had Tony Wolff, who was his little hot thing on the side. So Jung was kind of a pimp. So I thought to myself, not a good example of somebody who marries somebody for perhaps qualities other than the surface relationship to beauty. Anyway, I'm going to get into this more tomorrow and try to put some things together so that we can understand in some ways like what's happened and why relationships have become bombed out, post-apocalyptic scenarios where we're trying to find love. And so we'll get into that tomorrow and hopefully bring some light to the situation. All right, let's get on out of here. Got a late start. It's a little bit late in the day. I got a life. You got a life. Let's go live it. This is Robert Phoenix. You've been listening to 15 minutes of OV Flame. You see that? Change it just a little bit because I got the domain and OF was taken. I'm not a member of Psychic TV or the Temple of Psychic TV. I just used the of because I could get the domain name. You know the drill. Use your head to discern what's real, your heart to stay open to what's possible. And I'll see you guys tomorrow, 24 hours from today. Earlier.
You're listening to 15 Minutes of Flame with Robert Phoenix.